chemistry is the study of composition of matter and changes it undergoes. Forensic chemistry is a specialized area of forensic science involving the applying of chemical principles and techniques to the sector of forensic investigation and for the solution of the crime. Forensic chemists are scientists who analyze and interpret the evidence and testimony collected from crime scene. They then attempt to identify and collect the pieces together. This is done by using chemical tests on the collected materials. The role of forensic chemistry in criminal investigation is vast and range from techniques used to collect and preserve evidence to complex chemical procedure used to identify elements and compounds. It plays an important role in solving criminal and determining if someone has committed a crime or not.
In addition, forensic chemistry is applied chemistry in a legal environment. Experts in this field have a wide range of methods and instruments to help identify unknown substances. Crime scene investigation, like forensic chemistry, focuses on utilizing scientific and social analysis techniques to assist law enforcement in uncovering all information about a crime. Crime scene investigators work at the scene of a crime, gathering any relevant evidence for later analysis. Unlike crime scene investigators, forensic chemists do not visit the crime scene. Instead, they work in a lab environment, examining and analyzing evidence provided by investigators to help law enforcement agencies pursue justice. The results of forensic investigation may have a significant impact on lives. Therefore, techniques performed during forensic analysis must be closely regulated to confirm the accuracy and integrity of experimental results.
Why is scientific evidence crucial? The answer reveals the nature of science itself. For scientists, it is not enough just to explain a concept based on ideas. Scientists must be able to show that their explanations are valid. Empirical evidence provides unbiased facts to support a scientific ideas as well as to ensure the validity of the experiments scientists conduct. This allows scientists to construct objective explanations for the natural world. On the other hand, evidence is the means sanctioned by law of ascertaining in the judicial proceedings the truth respecting a matter of fact. It is proof of allegation. To put it simply, it is also the body of information or facts that is currently available that determines whether a belief is legitimate or true. DNA evidence, fingerprints, voice identification, gold illustrations or markings, gunshot residue, hair scan evidence, voice recognition, tire prints, and autopsy reports are only a few examples of scientific evidence utilized in criminal prosecutions that is significant to the fact finding.
Scientific evidence is defined as the findings of experiments used to support or refute a certain theory or hypothesis. It is an information that has been collected via extensive and patient scientific research. Prosecutors and defense attorneys frequently employ scientific evidence, also known as forensic evidence, in criminal trials involving sexual assault, robbery, murder, or other felonies. Although it is frequently utilized in court, scientific evidence is not always reliable. We develop trustworthy knowledge through science, which is the best method we know of. It is a communal and cumulative process of evaluating the evidence that results in information that is more accurate and reliable. Science is based on testable hypotheses and empirical data. Science attempts to provide trustworthy information and offer scientific explanations that people can use to better understand the world around them by basing its conclusions on numerous lines of evidence derived from experiments and observations.
As automobiles run on gasoline, crime laboratories run on physical evidence. So what is physical evidence? Physical evidence encompasses any and every object that may establish that a crime has or has not been committed or can link a criminal offense and its victim or its perpetrator. There are 6 different types of physical evidence, which are direct evidence, indirect or circumstantial evidence, hearsay evidence, physical evidence, fixed evidence, and movable evidence. Its presence first must be recognized at the crime scene. So, direct evidence. Direct evidence establishes a fact without the use of inference or presumption. If the evidence is correct, the fact is established conclusively. For example, a witness may testify that he witnessed rain outside before entering the courthouse. That witness testimony is direct evidence that it was rain. Indirect or circumstantial evidence. Circumstantial evidence, also known as indirect evidence, does not directly prove that a defendant is guilty of a crime, but it is proof of another fact that could lead to the conclusion or inference that the defendant is guilty. A witness saying that she observed the defendant fleeing the crime scene is an example of indirect evidence. In this case, a juror could conclude that the accused committed the crime based on this fact. So let's move on the hearsay evidence. Hearsay evidence is statement other than one made by the declarant while testifying at a trial or hearing that is provided to prove the truth of the facts contained therein is referred to as hearsay evidence. For example, if you are a witness in a trial, you cannot provide the following evidence. My mother informed me she saw the accused at 3 p.m. This is hearsay evidence of a statement that made outside of court. In order for such evidence to be submitted, your mother would have to testify and recount what she witnessed.
Physical evidence. Physical evidence in a crime scene is evidence that can be seen, handled, or observed with. Physical evidence can quickly get gained while on the scene, during collection and processing over the time. Example of physical evidence includes documents, hair, fiber, fingerprint, soil, and blood. Fixed evidence. Fixed or immovable evidence can be readily removed from a crime scene because of its size, shape, or makeup, such as walls, telephone pole, and doors. Movable evidence. Movable evidence can be picked up in a crime scene or any other location and transported. Example of this type of evidence include hair, fiber, glass, paint, and plastic. Note that physical evidence can be achieved with opting value in criminal investigation. Only its collection is performed with selectivity covered by collectors through knowledge of the crime, laboratory techniques, capacity, capabilities, and limitations.
In retrieving physical evidence, it is important to ask these cardinal questions. When is the perfect time to collect this physical evidence? What is the right or correct evidence that you can collect that would help the identification of the perpetrator of the crime? Where you can find or locate these pieces of evidence? Why are you collecting this physical evidence? And how are you going to collect them? Processing a crime scene should be done in a way that avoids destroying or changing physical evidence. The first task is to protect the scene from the contamination. That includes limiting who can enter the scene, and if it is outdoors, protecting it from elements. The retrieving process will usually start with: number 1, photograph the whole crime scene in full view. A scene should be photographed and videoed before anything is moved. The purpose of the crime scene photography is to provide true and accurate record of the crime scene and physical evidence presented by recording the general scene and related areas. Once the crime scene has been thoroughly documented and the locations of the evidence noted, then the collection process can begin.
Number 2. Use appropriate tools and materials in collecting physical evidence. The collection process will usually start with the collection of the most fragile or most easily lost evidence. Special consideration can also be given to any evidence or objects which need to be moved. Investigators should use the appropriate equipment when collecting evidence. Collection equipment that may come into contact with evidence should be sterile. Number 3. Collect sufficient samples for complete examination. Obtain known standards like hair, blood samples from victim and suspect. Using proper collection and preservation techniques when taking samples from a crime scene is crucial in order to avoid altering the evidence or missing important information. Obtaining biological evidence like blood samples from crime scene is critically important because DNA can provide the best evidence of innocence or guilt upon review of a case. Mark each evidence collection for identification and seal the evidence package. Ensure all evidence are secured. Make sure that hiding places or difficult access areas have not been overlooked. Physical evidence should be identified and secured as quickly as possible. Most physical evidence is perishable to some extent. It can be deliberately or naturally destroyed or contaminated. Ideally, each item of potential evidence should be bagged and sealed using a unique seal number. 5. Photograph the scene showing final condition after collection of physical evidence.
Historical development of crime laboratory, international to local. February 14, 1929. On February 14, 1929, 7 men were murdered in a Chicago North Side garage. The investigation of the St. Valentine's Day massacre resulted in the creation of the nation's first crime laboratory located at Northwestern University. The Chicago Police Department purchased the crime lab in 1938. Colonel Calvin H. Goddard, the father of forensic ballistics, was the key forensic expert in solving this case. The first medical textbook entitled Manual de Medicina Domestica printed included instructions related to medico-legal practice by Spanish physicians. Dr. Rafael Bernard E. Mas was the chief army physician. 1871, the teaching of legal medicine was included as an academic foundation subject in the School of Medicine at University of Santo Tomas. March 31, 1876. The King of Spain, by virtue of the Royal Decree number 188, created the position of Medico Titulares that in charge of public administration of justice. Forensic physicians were appointed. December 15, 1884, Governor General Joaquin Jabullar created a committee to study the mineral waters of Luzon and appointed Analcleto del Rosario at Quemes. The U.S. granted a strip of land with full control over the proposed canal, which is to be constructed without delay. September 13, 1887, Laboratorio Municipal de Manila was created, managed by Dirección General de Administración Civil that is controlled by Gobierno de Provincias. Functions: analysis of food, water, minerals from standpoint of public health and legal medicine, and specimens for clinical purposes. 1895, Antonio Luna established a clinical laboratory where some original works in chemistry were done. Function: chemical analysis. 1898, American civil government preserved the system of Spanish forensic medicine. 1899, the United States Army put up the first crime detection laboratory, first scientific laboratory on the banks of Pasig River.
Lieutenant R.P. Strong, an American soldier, took charge for 2 years. 1901, the Philippine Commission created the Provincial Insular and Municipal Board of Health under Act Numbers 157, 307, and 308, assigned to the respective inspectors and presidents of the same medico-legal duties of the medico titulares of the Spanish regime.
July 1, 1901, the Bureau of Government Laboratories (BGL) was created by virtue of Act Number 156 by the Civil Commission. Dr. Paul C. Ferrer became the first director on June 21 but assumed position on September 21. Purpose of BGL: performing biological and chemical analysis, the production of vaccines, and Sierra and Philippines Constabulary had its own crime laboratory. March 11, 1950, the Department of Legal Medicine was created with Dr. Sixto de Los Angeles as the head conferred authority to collect materials in the interest of medico-legal questions. January 10, 1922, the head of the Department of Legal Medicine and Ethics became the chief of the medico-legal department of the Philippines. General Hospital, Federal Pay, October 14, 1974. The passage of Act Number 3043 by the Philippines Legislature. Both historical events, famous birthdays, and notable dates from October 14, 1924 were searched by date. Day keyword: December 01, 1937. The Division of Investigation was created under the Commonwealth Act Number 18-1 with 2 medical legal officers and a chemist. The Battle of Nanking began. Japan recognized Hitler Cabinet as Minister of State and head of the Chancellery. March 31, 1935, Department of Legal Medicine was abolished and was turned over to Medical Legal Section of Judicial Investigation. October 1939, Philippine Constabulary having its own medical legal office with chemical laboratory assisting in the investigation of crimes within their jurisdiction. September 1945, the NBI was organized with the Division of Investigation as the nucleus. The surrender of Japan became official when the Japanese instrument of surrender was signed aboard the battleship USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay.